So now that we're all back from Thanksgiving and having had our usual heated arguments with our friends and loved ones, we can proceed with the waning days before sending off this admittedly eventful year. But it was over those hostile outbursts at the family dinner table that one conversation stood out amongst my cohorts. A conversation that I feel the world deserves to weigh in on. And it is, how the hell, of all people, is the Joker still alive? Because look, I get it. It's a comic book universe. Strange things happen all the time. And when you put the word absolute in front of things, oh boy, God help you. But for crying out loud, this has been bugging me for years. This ghost-faced red lipstick wearing menace has been a thorn in the side of the Dark Knight, dating all the way back to his creation in April of 1940. And no, it wasn't April 1st, but rather the 25th, but damn would that have been funny if that was the case. And since then, he's gone on to do unspeakable harm to the Batman and of course his supporting cast, as well as tormenting the city of Gotham and whoever else he can get his glove-covered mitts on. And yet, when all's said and done, the question always comes back to, why doesn't Batman just kill him? And okay, fine, there is a discussion to be had there. Hint hint for maybe a future deep dive. But first, I want to ask the question, why are we even talking about Batman? Especially when he exists in a world filled with a cornucopia of killers armed to the teeth, militia, and even entire nations that want this man's head on a spike. So that's what I want to ask today. How the hell is the Joker, the most famous mass murderer within his medium, still drawing breath? Especially after all the enemies he's made out of the entire world. And have there been any stories diving into this plot hole? And if not Batman, who else do I think could do the job? So strap on your gas mask and watch out for any rickety railings above a vat of acid, and let's discuss. So we all know that the Joker is one of the most notorious criminals within the DC universe, having contended with the likes of Superman, the Teen Titans, and of course Batman himself. And over the course of his tenure of villainy, he has done a lot of damage.
Now that's a lot of damage!
But anyone can say that. But what I'm looking at here is how much has he actually done? Well, you got the obvious, like the paralyzing Barbara Gordon, killing Jason Todd, though we all know those didn't really stick. He killed Jim Gordon's wife Sarah in a room full of babies, regularly poisons the city of Gotham, blows up buildings, threatens politicians, that one's not too bad. Stalks, steals, lies, and commits a whole bunch of other unspeakable atrocities. Yeah, if you can say anything about the Joker, he has a very diverse portfolio of accomplishments, with crimes ranging from goofy and outlandish to outright bloodthirsty. And those are the ones I really want to focus on. You know, the more sadistic crap he gets up to. Like bombing a school full of children, turning the city of Gotham into a bunch of lunatics and having them rip themselves apart, and getting godlike powers only to go on to eat the country of China, and doing so with a pair of chopsticks. Talk about adding insult to injury. Yeah, it's not hyperbole to say that the Joker is one messed up individual. Though as evil as he might be, unlike Lex Luthor, he never stole 40 cakes. He took 40 cakes! That's as many as 4 tens! And that's terrible! By the way, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the hard-hitting commentary you like to see. But back to the Joker, if we go on to look at alternate reality versions of this character, Joker's gone as far as to unleash the criminals from the Phantom Zone onto the planet Earth, blow up the city of Metropolis after tricking Superman into killing his wife and unborn child, and partake in a bad musical number with none other than Lady Gaga. I mean, if you compile a list of crimes he's committed across all media, then I just gotta leave it to Picard.
We have no law to fit your crime.
And when you think about it, when all's said and done, all Batman ever does is put his ass back into Arkham. And maybe that's all we should expect from a masked vigilante, but like, what do the courts ever do with him? Well, to me, it just seems like that the Gotham legal system is giving the man the runaround, kicking the can down the road until they figure out what to do with him. And while I personally could talk at length about the various ways that you could charge the Joker and how that would work out, for now, I want to stick with the idea that considering this man has pissed off pretty much the entire planet, how has no one gone to the trouble of taking matters into their own hands and dealt with the Joker themselves? Well, this is actually something that has been touched on from time to time and given an array of different answers. From Kingdom Come, where he's killed by the new hero Magog, to Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, where it's actually Tim Drake who does the deed, to the Injustice games where their version of Superman does the job, and even the Arkham video games where the Joker inadvertently does it to himself. But when it comes to the mainline DC universe, such events like this have still yet to pass, which I find extremely curious considering the fact that I don't consider it outside of the realm of possibility. And not just because it's fiction, you can write whatever you want. But no, within the framework of the story that the creators have set up, I think there are plenty of elements at play that could see the Joker end up in an early grave. Or well-timed, I don't know, how old is the guy anyways? And as for those who I think would be awarded this distinction, I divided them up into 3 categories, ranging from those who I believe would want to do it but can't, those who I believe could do it but won't, and those individuals who I believe could do it and probably would if given the chance. Starting with the would but couldn't, obviously would have to be every single criminal and assassin in Gotham, aside from those who are members of the Bat family, except for one of the Caped Crusaders cohorts, and a singular villain. So you know, Two-Face, the Penguin, the Riddler, Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy, the Mad Hatter, Killer Croc, Scarecrow, and pretty much all the regular clients that go in and out of the revolving door that is Arkham Asylum. And I say that they couldn't do it just because of the fact that, obviously they have the motivation. Gotham is no stranger to hosting plenty of gang wars and territory disputes between different factions and leaders. Hell, this is the entire plot of the storyline, the War of Jokes and Riddles. And even there, the Riddler still couldn't get one up on the Joker, and ultimately ended up helping him in his plan to finally learn how to laugh again. The story's better than I'm describing it, trust me. And while the villains of Gotham might align with each other from time to time, there is no love there. And they would all sooner stab each other in the back if they thought it would get them closer to their goal. And that's usually killing the Bat.
It's the freaking Bat!
So since Joker is something of a faction leader himself, you can imagine there's plenty of lowlifes in Gotham gunning for both his head and his seat on the throne. But I just think he's too well protected and prepared for any of them to get the job done. Except for one, and I'll get to him shortly. But aside from Batman's general rogues gallery, there is a member of his cohort who I think would be most inclined to doing the clown in himself, but wouldn't be able to get the job done. And that is of course none other than the failed Robin himself, Jason Todd, also known as the Red Hood. Because I think out of all of Batman's allies, Red Hood has the most personal grievance with the Clown Prince of Crime, and would be most excited to see him put into the ground. And as much as he would love to see the Dark Knight do it himself, Jason understands his former mentor's limitations, and probably cares more about killing the Joker than proving any one point to Batman by making him do it himself. Simply because I think he has a serious trauma related to the Joker for obvious reasons. That would cause him to slip up and allow his adversary to get one up over on him. The Joker is a conniving bastard after all. And the one time Jason had him dead to rights, he couldn't get the job done without trying to prove it to Batman, and even when he blew up the building they were in, all parties involved still somehow miraculously survived. And that was the closest we've ever seen him get to taking down the man who's caused them both so much harm. The only exception to this is from this excerpt from the movie A Death in the Family, where, spoiler alert, Jason does finally get his revenge on the Joker, but it's only after Batman has perished, causing the Joker to lose the will to go on, reverting back into something of a civilian himself, only to then get stabbed in the eye and finally put out of his misery. But I don't think that's really him killing the Joker, but more or less just putting the rest of the shell that the Joker resided in. So I can't even count that as his accomplishment, and in all honesty, it's the closest he's ever gotten. And finally, the person who I think who would also not be able to get the job done despite desperately wanting to, actually lives over in Metropolis, and is none other than the bald menace himself, Lex Luthor. Because while Lex is certainly no slouch in the evil scheming department himself, I don't think his machinations managed to match that of Gotham's most notorious prankster. And while there's certainly a lot of bad blood between the two of them, and Lex Luthor is overall more intelligent, it's only really scientifically and technologically speaking, but not tactically. When it comes to that, the Joker hasn't beaten spades. Being forced to contend with Batman over Superman obviously means that the battles are going to be much more cerebral, and Joker has managed to hold his own all these years.
Batman? I know you're up there. Oh!
So I don't think Luthor would be able to keep up with the unpredictability that the clown offers, and this paired up with his pride and ego,
Your pride and your ego.
would likely lead to his undoing. And it's for this reason why I don't think Luthor even bothers trying, because he would probably claim it would be beneath him to even go out to Gotham to challenge such a menace. Though in reality, I think he secretly fears him, and the humiliation that losing to someone as ridiculous looking as the Joker would entail. Next are the ones who could kill him, but wouldn't. And this of course would be all the stacked superheroes, including Batman, with maybe the exception of Wonder Woman. Because most of these heroes are strong enough to just about kill anyone and everyone on the planet they so chose, but a lot of them are rocking that no-kill code, meaning that such actions would just be off the table. And even for those who don't, like Wonder Woman and the like, I think plenty of them view Gotham as Batman's territory, and would choose not to interfere, understanding the special relationship he shares with the city. Also, a bunch of them are probably scared of the Joker themselves and don't want that heat on them. So yeah, the stacked superheroes, I don't think they're gonna do it. Next is the League of Assassins, including Ra's al Ghul himself. because more often than not, their main goal is the destruction of most of civilian life, including Gotham City itself, I feel like they would actually view the Joker as something of a useful resource to achieving these ends. But then there's an additional angle that, on a personal level, I think Ra's al Ghul, viewing the Dark Knight as his logical successor, needs to be sure that he's willing to commit, and so sees the Joker as a challenge that Bruce must fulfill. So by making sure the clown was off limits, Ra's would continue to be able to test whether or not Bruce Wayne was truly committed to his mission, and if not, force him to suffer alongside his greatest adversary. And finally, there's the character of Deathstroke. And yes, I could have said things like the New Gods and stuff too, but I just don't think that they would care in general. So anyway, Deathstroke. Yeah, I actually think Deathstroke does have the capability and the aptitude to put the Joker in the ground once and for all. Considering the fact that he is DC's most notorious killer, outclassing even the likes of Lady Shiva, Deadshot, and Cheshire. The problem is, and the reason I don't think he'd be willing to do it though, is simply because I don't know anyone who would have the money for it. I imagine killing a Joker would run a hefty price. I don't know, maybe a government or two would be willing to fork up the dough, but it also seems highly unlikely. But the problem is Deathstroke's just not a loyal person, and might just come back and kill his client himself if the Joker makes a better offer. And after all, why wouldn't he? The Joker would probably see this coming and plan accordingly, if for no other reason than because he'd think it's funny. So if you can't be willing to buy him off, well then I don't think there's anything that you could do, because the Joker and Deathstroke, they just don't have a lot of beef. First off, just because there's not all that much you could do to Deathstroke that he hasn't already done to himself, and the only people he really has a problem with are either already dead by his own hand, or are other heroes like Batman and the Teen Titans. And the reason why he would struggle with them is because they too could kill the Joker if they so desired. But, you know, there's the no kill code. But if he absolutely had to kill the Joker, then yes, I think he could get the job done. But I've just never seen enough reason for him to want to do it. Much like Ra's, he probably enjoys that Joker torments his enemies. And finally, we got the ones that really confuse me, just in the sheer fact of why they haven't done it yet. And those are the ones who could and would do it. And those ones being Argus/Amanda Waller herself, who I think definitely hates the Joker, views him as a threat to national security, and just a general menace who she can't control. I mean, why doesn't she just send a member of Task Force X? Or, I don't know, hire Deathstroke. Sure, it might be expensive, but I think even Deathstroke would be smart enough to know not to cross Waller. Like, there's very few things in this world that Amanda Waller wants that she doesn't manage to get, and Argus as a whole has plenty of resources to do it. Not to mention, they work with numerous different governments, who I'm sure would all be thrilled by the public execution of this cackling nuisance. So, I don't know, aside from any influence from the Dark Knight himself to not interfere with Gotham, I guess the only other reason I can see Argus and Amanda Waller not doing the Joker in is simply because they're backlogged and they're planning on getting to it later. Perhaps there's just so much going on that they first gotta deal with the middle management bureaucracy. Next are a bit more local and truly foundational to the city of Gotham, that being the Court of Owls. Because with them, they're an aristocratic group of billionaires and wealthy oligarchs who see the city of Gotham as their personal plaything. So I can't see why they'd be willing to share it with someone as psychotic as the Joker. Not to mention he completely undermines their existence by spitting in the face of the order they try to establish. So I don't know, maybe it's just because the order has been around so long that all the people who knew what they were doing died out, and now it's just being run by a bunch of nepo babies who don't know the first thing about managing a city from the shadows, and can't even begin to truly utilize the power they wield. I mean, that is how these things usually go in the real world. Because if that's not the case, then I don't know why they're not dealing with this little clown problem they're rocking. And finally, we loop back to the beginning with the one villain who I said was the exception to those who would want to kill him but couldn't, that being the man who broke the bat, Bane. Because Bane, of all of Batman villains, is actually probably the most intellectual and physically menacing. Bane might on the surface look like a silly luchador of a drug problem, but he is anything but stupid. With an intellectual superiority that I think even rivals Batman's himself, I think Bane would pose a worthy challenge if he ever set the Joker in his sights. And No Man's Land, it pretty much proved that if Bane wanted to, the Joker would be absolutely done for. And the only reason he was still alive is because Bane is so focused on killing Batman that all other objectives are secondary. But I can still see good reason for him wanting the clown out of the picture, if for no other reason than because it would throw Batman off his game and get rid of one more challenger taking up the spotlight. So yeah, also not entirely sure why he hasn't just done it either. But those are the people I think who could and wouldn't, and would but couldn't. I think the things that we learned about the Joker today is that, for one, he's one slippery son of a bitch, with plenty of enemies out there, meaning that he's always on his toes. But again, I think that's part of the charm of the character. He's this enigma that shouldn't exist, and yet by some miracle, or anti-miracle I guess, does. But I do want to see more of these type of stories explored, looking at how someone as deranged as this can continue to exist without anyone else getting one up over him. Because after all, I am kind of tired of having to hear constantly people asking why doesn't Batman kill him, when there's so many other eligible bachelors who can take on that role. And hey, if you're really frustrated that this guy hasn't been done in, then maybe you should question why the legal system hasn't given him the chair yet.
Don't just let anyone have their closure by apologizing. Send a message that you're not afraid of hell.
Hey, thanks for watching, and if you stuck all the way to the end, why don't you check out another one of our videos on screen now. And if you want to chat directly, come join our Discord, link in the description below.